Okay, so this video is going to be a little bit more technical than my last video, and this is also kind of a video I want to produce more on this channel, since I'm very passionate about technology and that's what I'm spending most of my time on. This video is going to be about smart home, about IKEA lights in particular. So if you're not into smart home, you may not know that IKEA back in 2016 released their very own smart lighting system called TRDFRI. Basically, it's a very affordable system that features basic lights like E27, E14, spotlight lights and light panels. And the easiest competitor that IKEA is targeting to is, of course, Philips with their Hue system that was released back in 2012. Both of the systems are based on Zigbee, which is a connectivity standard. And here you might be thinking about something similar to Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. The only thing that you have to know about Zigbee is that every device you add to your system extends its range. So basically, more devices you have, then wider range you have. So I've been using IKEA's TRDFRI lights for over a year now, and I just started with one light bulb. Shortly after I got another one, and now I have 7 light bulbs and 5 different controllers and a motion sensor. In today's video I want to tell you if it's actually worth to get yourself into the IKEA system, or maybe it's actually better to look at alternatives that are a little bit more expensive. First of all, I want to cover the lights I've been using. First one I got is the RGB, so the colorful one. And to be honest, I do really think that you should get it. Like, I've been playing around with the colors a bit, but this is mostly like a party trick. And yeah, I've been playing with it mostly when my friends are around, and that's about it. I think the most useful kind of bulb you can get from IKEA is the one with temperature adjustment. And actually I have one of these in my living room and it's been working really well, and it's actually quite a useful feature to have. Then I have 3 normal light bulbs that are basically just dimmable ones, but it's still a very nice feature to have just to be able to control the brightness. And IKEA also recently released these really cool looking LED filament bulbs, and we have 2 of them and I really like how they look, especially in our bedroom on bedstands. On top of that, as I mentioned earlier, we have 5 different remotes which are actually required to run the whole system. And this is actually also a first downside of the IKEA's light bulbs I can see. To control the IKEA's lights, you have to have a remote. And if you're going to use a standard light switch that's already on your wall, that's going to turn off the light bulb and you no longer will be able to control it via your phone. But this is actually something that you cannot avoid with any other smart light system. And the only way to deal with that is just change a switch to a smart one. But what's annoying with IKEA's remote is that you need one to pair the lights. So if you don't have one of these, you won't be able to add a new light bulb to your system. But IKEA usually adds one to sets and it's very cheap. I think I got it in a set for like €10 together with a light bulb, so it's not a bad deal at all. And once you have one of these remotes, then you can connect it to a gateway. And a gateway is a device that allows you to connect the whole system to the internet, therefore control everything from your phone. Not only can you control everything via IKEA's own app, but you can also connect Apple Home, Google Home and Amazon Alexa. But since TRDFRI is a Zigbee-based system, you can also pair it to different bridges. So a few notable examples here are Samsung's SmartThings, there's also Xiaomi Mi Home, and you can even connect the bulbs from IKEA to Philips' own Hue Hub. And all that actually makes it a really good deal for people who are already into one of these systems and just want to get a cheap light bulb. But let's say you don't have any of that, you don't have either TRDFRI or Hue. What are actually the biggest differences between these 2 systems and what makes IKEA's light bulb so cheap? First of all, what you can read in the reviews of many people who use both TRDFRI and Hue is the fact that Hue can go much dimmer than IKEA's light bulbs, and the transition between colors and different brightness levels is much smoother. But to be honest, in my experience, neither of that is a big problem. As I said earlier, I'm using these LED filament light bulbs from IKEA in my bedroom, and they work for us as nights and lamps. And I set an automation in HomeKit, so right before we wake up, the lights turn on. And the same before we go to bed, so every day at 9:45 I think, the lights turn on. For most of the time they're at 1%, and I found that it's perfect for reading and just going around the bedroom, and it's really not that distracting, especially during the night. But this is only the filament ones. For the cheapest light bulb, I found it's actually a little bit too bright for my liking. What I would actually recommend you is just to go to IKEA, of course once it's possible again, and try out all the different light bulbs and see which one works for you and if they're not too bright for you, especially in the lowest setting. And when it comes to the smooth transitions, that's an actual problem. Although again, I don't think it's that big of a deal, especially considering how cheap IKEA's light bulbs are again. But what I found to be an actual issue is IKEA's Home Smart app. And before you're going to say that you can just use Google Home or you can just use Apple Home, yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. But the thing is that Philips' app is much better, and it allows you to create custom scenes, and it also has integrations with services such as IFTTT and many others. And that's something that you're not going to find in IKEA's app. So what IKEA's app offers is actually a very basic set of features. For example, when it comes to automations, there's only a very simple timer. So for example, you can brighten up the lights when you are waking up, you can turn them on and off at a certain time, or there is also this random mode that basically turns on the lights if you're not home. So it kind of mimics that you're at home, but you're not, and yeah, it's kind of awkward. But what IKEA's app is really missing are scenes, which are a really powerful feature of Philips Hue app. But there is a light in this tunnel. IKEA recently announced that they are going to update this app and it's going to feature scenes among many other features. They're also going to release these shortcut buttons that you'll be able to buy in stores. And what they will allow you to do is to control your lights, your blinds, as well as Sonos speakers. And actually, I've been using IKEA's Symfonisk speakers for a few months now, but I'm going to talk about them in a separate video. Okay, so I want to come back for a second to the remotes. So as I said earlier, they're required to pair your light bulbs to the gateway you have. But the thing is, you actually need only one of them, and if you go to IKEA's app, you can just move it between different rooms, and then you can easily connect all the light bulbs to the gateway. There's a really good manual, I'll link in the description down below. So once you do it, you can control all the lights using only Google Assistant, Siri, and so on, and you won't have to touch the remotes. But there is one more downside to these remotes. Since I already mentioned Siri, Google Assistant, and so on, you cannot actually use this with Apple Home. So in Philips' Hue, every button you add and every motion sensor you add is also visible in HomeKit as a sensor. And unfortunately, these don't support HomeKit out of the box. But there is actually a workaround that would get this to work with Apple HomeKit, at least if you have Raspberry Pi at home. I'm linking my own blog post in the description where I covered how I connected IKEA's motion sensor to my Apple HomeKit system. Otherwise, if you don't care much about Apple HomeKit and all the other stuff, then they actually work really well. And I found them to be very reliable. Not only the small one here that has brightness control, but also the 5-button one that, in addition to changing the brightness, allows you to change color or the temperature. For me, the biggest advantage of IKEA's system, besides the fact that it's so cheap, is the fact that it works really well with, again, Apple Home and Google Home. And actually I use both of the systems since I have an iPhone and I have 2 Google Home Minis at home. And IKEA's system works really well with HomeKit automations. So for example, if I enter the kitchen and the motion sensor from IKEA that I hacked to work with Apple HomeKit detects that there is a motion, the light will turn on. And same for our bedroom, where we are actually using a dedicated HomeKit sensor from a company called Omvis. And that's going to happen only at certain times of the day. And of course you can control the lights using Smart Assistant. So if you say set the light to 50% or turn on all the lights in the living room, that's going to happen no issues. And my favorite feature when it comes to voice control is the fact that I can turn on HomeKit scenes. So for example, when I say Netflix time, 10 lights in the living room will set as I configure them in the app, and Netflix will turn on the Apple TV. And yeah, that's basically my experience after a year of using the light bulbs. And to be honest, I never really had any bigger technical issues, maybe apart from some small connectivity issues and some pairing issues. But if you're looking for a cheap lighting system, I would really consider getting TRDFRI, especially if the issues I mentioned earlier don't really bother you. And if you're going to use the lights with Apple HomeKit or with Google Home, then the app from IKEA is actually not going to be a problem at all. But if you're looking for a system that's good on its own and has a really good app that has a lot of customization features and integrations, then I think Hue, even though it's a more expensive option, it's actually much better. But in my case, as I mentioned earlier, I'm just using them with Apple Home for most of the time, and I really appreciate having all of the automations that Apple's app offer. And yeah, it's just great to have devices from many different manufacturers and don't really care if they're going to work or not, especially if they use different technologies to connect. Because some of the devices that I'm using are Wi-Fi, some of them are Bluetooth, and I don't really have to care if they're going to work or not. That's all you have to know if you want to get into smart lighting system but you don't want to break a bank. If you have any questions, you can always leave them in the comments. I will try to help you. Otherwise, I would just recommend going to IKEA again and checking them out in person and see if they're actually going to work in your case. And if you're new to the channel, I highly recommend subscribing. I'll be making more videos about technology, about coffee and other stuff. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next one.